Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said on Tuesday that he backs a ban on the ownership of assault weapons, but declined to provide a clear definition of the type of gun he would like to ban. Mayorkas was asked at a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing by Senator John Kennedy again whether he agrees with President Biden that we should ban the private ownership of assault weapons in America.
Mr. Secretary, do you agree with the President that we should ban the private ownership of assault weapons in America?
Senator, I do.
What is an assault weapon?
It is, for example, an AK-47.
Can you give me a definition other than just pointing to a specific weapon? Would there be other weapons besides an AK-47 you would ban?
There very well are. And I remember when I was a federal prosecutor in the Central District of California from September 25th, 1989 to, I believe it was April 2001.
And I thank you for your service, but if you could answer my question.
The vast majority of law enforcement officers, leaders with whom I worked were greatly in support of the assault weapons ban.
Mr. Chairman, you know why we get so frustrated with you? Because you won't give straight answers.
I think I just did.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Do you have a definition of an assault weapon?
I am confident there is a technical definition of what is an assault weapon, and it was assuredly used in the context of the statute that previously existed banning assault weapons.
Got it?
What a turd.
I am like he's the corporate guy who's sitting in front of the board.
Yep. And
the board asks him, point blank, what's the reason we're down 80% this quarter? Well, it's a factor. It's a many factors.
It's a multitude
of factors, and has no clue.
It's funny. I remember a couple of months ago I was watching The Five, and they asked her, I think it was Gutfeld, asked Geraldo, what does AR stand for in AR-15? Yes. And he tried to say assault rifle, and Gutfeld's like, no. Yeah. And just shook his head. No, it's Armalite something.
If you feel if this is your point of view on things, great. Go debate it until the cows come home. But at least know what you're talking about.
Yeah, at least have some level of knowledge of what you support.
Yes. Mayorkas was brought in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee yesterday to talk about border security. That's what all of this stems from.
Another thing he knows nothing about.
Senator Ted Cruz asked Mayorkas 5 times if there is a crisis at the southern border. And as you, I'm sure, could tell, he gets no answer. Yeah.
Is there a crisis at our southern border?
Senator, there is a very significant...
That's a yes or no question.
There's a very significant...
Is there a crisis?
Senator, there's a very significant challenge...
I think your microphone is not on.
There is a very significant challenge that we are facing.
Yes or no, is there a crisis?
I believe I've addressed that question.
So you're refusing to answer?
Senator, there is a very significant challenge, and
will you answer if there's a crisis?
Therefore, we are dedicating the resources...
Okay, so you're refusing to answer. Well, Secretary Mayorkas, I'll tell you someone who is willing to answer, which is your and President Biden's chief of the Border Patrol in a sworn deposition in July of 2022 when asked, would you agree, Chief Ortiz, that the southern border is currently in crisis? Answer, yes. Notice none of those wiggle words, none of that equivocation. One word, one syllable, yes. Are you willing to speak with the same clarity as Chief Ortiz? Is there a crisis at our southern border, yes or no?
Senator, I'm very proud to work alongside...
But you refuse to answer. Let me...
Yes or no? Here's what they're basically saying. We have open borders. That's what they're saying. Just come out and say it, whether you got to have Ted Cruz tee it up, Mr. Kennedy from Louisiana tee it up. Just say it. Yes, we have a crisis. Why is that so hard to say? Oh, because then you'd be undermining your boss.
Well, you'd also be admitting that there's a problem.
Yeah.
And they don't want to do that.
Well, we have a significant challenge. So why can't you just say yes to crisis? Is crisis such a inflammatory buzzword that it makes you uncomfortable? Because it's the fact, it's the reality. We have open borders. Come on in, people.
Senator Ted Cruz obviously a senator in Texas, brings it home by saying about what he's seen in his state of Texas.
How many migrants died in 2022?
At our approaching our southern border?
Yes.
Precisely why we are seeking to exclude the smuggling.
Do you know the answer? Do you know how many died?
I do not.
You do not. Of course you don't. I know how many died. 853.
That is
853. And by the way, here are the numbers that have died every year. You go back to 1998, you see it's consistently between 300 and 400, 300, 400, 300, 400. Suddenly, 2021, what happens? You get in office, and that red line are dead bodies. I've been on the Rio Grande, and I've seen dead bodies floating there who've drowned because of your refusal to do your job. You don't even know how many have died. What do you say to the Texas farmers and ranchers who find pregnant ladies dead on their property, who find toddlers dead on their property? What do you say to them?
I say that is why precisely we are taking it to the smuggling organizations.
But you are not. That is simply not true.
Number two, it is why we are
let me read from the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal 2 weeks ago ran an article entitled, "It's like a graveyard. Record numbers of migrants are dying at the border." The story begins with this chilling line, quote, Eagle Pass, Texas. Local officials keep a refrigerated truck to hold the bodies of migrants who drown in the currents of the Rio Grande while trying to cross the border into the U.S. Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent that this article be entered into the record.
Wow.
Crushed him. Sir, do you know how many people died crossing the border? Do you even know where you parked your car today? I don't think Mayorkas has an answer for anything. How can you be so clueless? And let's be honest, he's not clueless. He knows what's going on. He does.
Do you think he knows what's going on, he just won't say?
Yes.
Or do you think he's just a dope?
Well, both, but he's aware of what's going on. But his administration and the people above him, this is what they want. But here's the $1 million question. Why allow open borders? Do they believe that people that come in here that are given the opportunity to enter this country illegally will eventually say, thank you, here I'm going to register to vote and vote for you? What is the motivation to having open borders? That should be a question that Karine Jean-Pierre is peppered with every time she steps up to the podium. That's what I would do. Mm-hmm. Karine, can you explain to me what is this administration's motive and agenda and reasoning for allowing our borders to be as open as they are? What's the end result for this administration? And then she would just panic and look at her binder and...
I would refer you to the White House counsel.
Refer people to the council.
We'll get back to Mayorkas in 1 second. Jennifer Brennan tweets and says, Greg should put $5 in the grammar jar whenever he says 100%. Do I say 100% a lot?
I mean, I've heard you say it, but what's wrong with saying 100%?
I don't know. I guess I say it too much.
Yeah, it's not a repetition jar.
Secret
P, the grammar jar.
Secret P00 says he'll rat out Rich Zeoli for the dollar jar. It's a specialty. So we'll have the Twitter police on Rich Zeoli if his producers can do it. Sid asks, who carries cash in that studio? It took a month for Des to get his Super Bowl cash.
That's a good point.
It's going to be a jar full of IOUs.
Yes. I'm going to be like Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber. Ooh, that one's for the car. You might want to hold on to that one.
Cosmo and Buddy says, are you singing My Little Runaway? I won wonder. I don't get it.
Me neither. I don't get Twitter most days anyway, so.
Yes, if you're just tuning in now, we are going to have a grammar jar that every time one of us, being myself and Nick Kayal and Rich Zeoli, say something incorrect, we will put a dollar into the jar. All the proceeds at the end of the year will go to the Travis Manion Foundation.
By the way, now, and if you're watching on YouTube, you might see an unbelievable glare coming off of my face. No. With the sun coming up between the high-rise buildings here in the city, coming through this studio, I am right now almost legally blind. I can't see a darn thing. I can't see Greg or Dawn right now. All I see is just reflections.
They can
blinded by the light.
They can put those blinds down.
Yeah,
if you want them.
Somebody's listening. Can we drop the blinds directly adjacent to my left so I can see?
Back to Mayorkas. This is about Mexico and the fight against fentanyl. This is Lindsey Graham questioning DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas on Mexico.
Do you consider Mexico a reliable partner in this fight regarding fentanyl and illegal immigration?
Ranking Member Graham, we are working with Mexico on the fight against fentanyl.
Are they a reliable partner?
We have brought great cases together, and we are looking to enhance our cooperation.
There you go.
Oh, my God.
Got it?
Got it. And by the way, Dorenzo just put the blinds down so I can see again.
Okay. So, are they a reliable partner? We're working with them.
It's a significant challenge.
It's, Should the drug cartels be labeled a terrorist organization? This has been a big question going forward. Mm-hmm. This is Mayorkas' answer to that.
Would be subject to American jurisdiction. Do you support labeling these drug cartels as FTOs under U.S. law?
Ranking Member Graham, I have heard you speak of this issue as well. I share your view 100% that these are ruthless, vicious peddlers.
Well, do you support my efforts to make them FTOs?
This is a decision that rests in the jurisdiction of the Department of State, and it is a difficult question as to where the line between criminality, however vicious, and terrorism is drawn. And I'd be happy.
When you kill 70,000 Americans, you have crossed the line. But, that's not your bailiwick. Let's go to...
There you go.
So, 2,000, 3,000 people get killed in a building by a plane. It's terrorism. 70,000 people get killed by a poison. It's not terrorism.
Isn't that interesting?
Why are we so afraid to label certain people as terrorists? Why are we so afraid to say the word crisis during certain situations? Why are we so afraid to call it a hate crime when it's Christians? I mean, it's a pretty common term, and the last time I checked, it's not dependent upon your identity.
True.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah, I don't know what I guess it's a strategic reason of why we don't say or why we don't label them. Yeah. I don't know. It's a great question.
Yeah.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, by the way, did you guys see that he just inked a $5 million book deal to write his memoir?
Oh, he didn't make enough off of Big Pharma?
Thank you.
Interesting. Well,
$5 million. It's a good job if you can get it.
I wonder what Bernie Sanders thinks about that. You have a right to be angry about capitalism. Here's my book, $95.
So he did a sit down with C-SPAN yesterday. The title was "Lessons Learned from COVID-19." He defended lockdowns.
So he learned nothing.
He defended lockdowns.
Okay, so he's just good. He's dug in the sand. He's entrenched. He's not going to budge.
Yep. This is him defending lockdowns.
When we in the White House, when Debbie Birx and I proposed the 15-day shutdown followed by a 30-day shutdown, you may not remember, but that was when the meat packing freezer trucks were parked in front of Elmhurst Hospital because they had to put the bodies in there because the morgues were overflowing.
Cool.
The same thing was seen in Boston in front of Mass General and the Brigham. So when you have a tsunami of cases where you have to shut it off immediately, you can't say, let's wait X number of months until we get a vaccine, or let's wait X number of months until we do this. When you're running out of hospital beds and you're running out of ventilators, you got to do something draconian, because otherwise there would have been a lot more lives lost. However, you've got to balance that and continually testing whether it's still worth locking down. The initial lockdown reason was a life-saving reason. How long you close a school, how long you do, you diminish activities on the outside has to be a dynamic process, which you've got to evaluate in real time. Now, is the risk-benefit still in favor of restriction, or is the risk-benefit leaning much more towards loosening up? And that's what's going to be interesting, because we're going to go back and examine that. Were things done too long or not? But the initial decision to lock things down unequivocally saved a lot of lives. No doubt about that. Not even close.
What me and the scarf did not learn is that all of these lockdowns unequivocally destroyed people's lives, set people back with their children and their academic and social development, destroyed small businesses, created mental health issues. Yeah, so moving forward, what we've learned, we would do the same thing all over again for something that 99.2% chance won't kill you. Thank you, Tony. Good luck with your book.
The lessons I learned from COVID-19 by Tony Fauci, $5 million for that book.
How much is the book selling for? Do we know?
Well, no. He just got a $5 million advance to write his memoir.
Okay.
His memoir.
Be interesting to see what the retail price is and if he ever cracks, was it the New York Times best-selling list?
He will. He will, because I believe there's still enough people out there who buy into what he's selling.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
You're probably wrong. Probably not.
Nope.
Dawn, Nick and I debated this during the commercial break, whether we should play this or not. So I don't know if you saw the story. There was a Mississippi news anchor, Barbie Bassett, who was fired for quoting a Snoop Dogg lyric. Did you see this?
Yeah.
So the reason I'm hesitating is because it got her fired. So, first of all, it is not offensive at all. I guess it's a slang word for another word, but it doesn't, it's not the word in itself is not a bad word, right?
Right.
So
it's an N-word that rhymes with fizzle.
Yes.
That Snoop says.
Yeah. It's
that
ridiculous.
Is slang.
Yeah. He says in his song, for shizzle my...
And
yes.
Rhymes with...
Yes.
Right. Rhymes with drizzle.
We can't say that?
Apparently not. Apparently it's offensive.
Well, she clearly didn't, I have teenagers, so I think because of them I hear they love Snoop Dogg, but so I wouldn't say it.
You wouldn't say it?
No. That's why I'm not saying it now. No, because it's a slang term for the N-word, which is, me, it's a sin.
So if you're quoting
it's a sin word.
So she's not racist, but she said something that's offensive, so she gets fired.
Well, is she African American?
She is.
I believe she's yeah.
Yes.
So
she's,
I
didn't. The TV anchor?
Yes.
Oh, I thought
she's
she was
African American.
I thought she was white.
No, she's an African American.
I'm gonna play it because it's a news story.
Okay.
Right? We're playing it in the news. That's part of a news story. It's ridiculous. I can't even believe we're at a place.
Are you playing this, or are you playing Whoopi Goldberg?
Well, I'm going to play what she said, and then I'm going to play Whoopi's comments.
Okay.
This is Mississippi news anchor Barbie Bassett was fired for what she said at the end of this clip here.
Before we know it, she'd have a Snoop Dogg tattoo on her shoulder.
For shizzle, my nizzle.
I'm telling you. Julie, what do you think about that? She says.
Well, get this.
Well, I mean, they were all clearly uncomfortable for her saying
that.
Right.
That is a...
Apparently it is offensive. I didn't know that. But then again, I mean, I don't look to be offended by every single phrase somebody utters. So let me make sure I got the facts straight. This is a TV news anchor.
Yes.
In Mississippi.
Yep.
Live on set. Mm-hmm. She utters that Snoop Dogg phrase or lyric from a rap song. And she's an African American herself.
Yes.
And she was fired.
Yes.
That's outrageous.
Whoopi Goldberg brought this up.
She's going to win this lawsuit,
I
by
hope
the way,
she does.
this anchor woman.
I hope she does.
By the way, we are beholden, this radio station and all the radio stations are beholden to FCC guidelines. There are certain things we can't say because the government doesn't let us on the airwaves.
Right.
That is not one of them.
Right.
Right?
We got to stop being beholden to all of these small minority vocal people that are on social media that tweet, "Oh my God, I can't believe you said that. My life sucks, so let's ruin her career." She 20 plus years, and her career's over for that? It's outrageous. This is why I'm so against cancel culture.
But the funny thing about it is it does bring up the point that, and I say it to my youngest son all the time, because I said, you're listening to that music, and the music is saying the actual N-word, not the slang for the N-word.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to hear it. You better not. If you're singing along with your friends, you're not allowed to sing that word. And he knows that. This is what's fascinating to me. I would
love to hear that conversation with
I know
your family.
And I don't care if his friends, and I've had the friends say, "Mrs. Menti, but I'm black. I can." No, that's a sin word. and you do not have freedom of speech in my house.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not saying that word or the slang for it in my house. So we have these conversations, but the irony here is I think some people, and we heard like Charlemagne the God talk about this, they're shocked that she got fired because she said that. But if she were a white person, they would think it was wrong, but she's not white.
Right. And they still fired her.
Right. And I think that's why people are shocked by it. Because, but the truth is, no matter what, to me, it's just an ugly word with ugly. I'm just saying, I know we're not supposed to be triggered by words, but just
let me ask
get that word out of your mouth.
Let me ask you guys a question. Were they just trying to get rid of her?
Probably.
And this is a way to do it.
Well, maybe.
I mean,
maybe she's got a bloated contract.
What did she say?
Yeah.
Get rid of her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it's just, and the people that get offended by this type of stuff, they're also the same people that vote Democrat and don't want to prosecute. Like, and I've said this before on the show. We now live in a world where there's a segment of the population that are far more bothered by what your words are than what your actions are. Right. Like, that's staggering to me. That a word bothers you more than a violent criminal act.
Can we just... I don't want to gloss over the fact that she didn't say the actual word.
I know.
But she said a word that everybody knows is a slang.
Do they? Okay. I didn't know that.